The story of the Rainbird and how the birds got their colours. Dedicated to my Nana, Millie Taylor, who taught me the love of stories and who planted the seed of knowledge in my mind and nurtured it. Sitting by the campfire, old Nana began to tell us the story about the little rainbird and how all the birds got their colours. Long time back, in the very early days of the dreaming, there were no seasons like there are now. There was only two. A long, hot, dry season, followed by a long, cold, wet and stormy rain season. Often it rained for months on end, and sometimes the land would begin to flood. All the birds would gather in big trees to shelter from the storms. Here they would sit, preening themselves incessantly, and squabbling and squawking. One time it rained very hard for many, many weeks without stopping, and the land was flooded by massive flows of water that stretched for many long miles, until only a single tree, a huge, ancient old tree, stood above the waters, flooding the land. The birds all began to gather towards that ancient old tree, the biggest tree still standing above the floods. All the different birds swarmed into that one tremendously big tree to avoid the heavy rain. All the birds but one, the rainbird. He loved the rain. While most birds hid from the lashing wind and rains, the rainbird loved nothing better than to wheel and dart about, singing and flying amongst the rain as it fell. This day, however, the rain grew steadily harder and harder as the thunderstorm grew in strength. Soon, even little Rainbird struggled against the sheer ferocity of the storm. The storm raging around little Rainbird became almost frightening with its enormous power, and he too sought shelter and hurriedly flew towards the big tree, still standing strong and tall, high above the waters. Once inside the canopy of dark green leaves, the atmosphere was much calmer, and the little rainbird flew around looking for a branch to perch upon. There were so many kinds of birds. Everywhere he looked, there seemed to be more and more birds. And even though he was only very small, the little rainbird had trouble finding any space on the branch to land. Eventually he was forced to land high up in the tree canopy, close to the very last protective leafy layer near the top of the big tree. Here he landed and began preening his feathers. As he looked about, he saw all kinds of colourful birds preening themselves, squawking, squabbling. Some were even trying to doze. When suddenly, a big bird, a big bright red parrot, almost crashed into him, nearly knocking him from the branch he was resting on. "Oh, I'm sorry, little bird. I didn't see you. You're very plain and hard to see. You should get some new colours to make yourself brighter and more noticeable." As the little rainbird studied all the beautifully coloured birds clustered under the tree canopy, he said, "Oh, there's so many beautiful birds. How can I get such wonderful colours for myself?" The big, brightly coloured bird looked at him askew and said, "Well, as soon as the rain stops, I'll show you. This rain is so hard it was washing all our colours out. But once it begins to stop, we can go and refresh them again." Indeed, as the little rainbird looked about, he noticed how some birds' colours had been blurred. Some had even washed almost out, and now some of the red parrots looked pink. Some of the others too, their colours were now patchy and giving them splotches of colours, and some with whites and greys. Each was trying desperately to spread the remaining colours over their feathers, and complaining about how their beautiful colours were being ruined by the incessant rains. They screeched loudly and angrily, dismayed at the loss of their bright colours. Many of the birds crowded together, and as closely as they were, they repeatedly bumped and rubbed against each other as they preened their feathers. Many squabbles would break out as each smeared colours over each other, and many birds took to the crowded air under the leafy tree canopy. Little Rainbird looked at the big parrot. "Oh, I think some of them look pretty with the way their colours have run together." To the little Rainbird it was magnificent. As the birds chattered and shivered and flew about, diving and wheeling in a chaotic cloud, they shimmered in many colours. And to the Rainbird it was mesmerising. He couldn't look away from the beautiful sight of such colours. In wonder he watched, as the sheer volume of birds made it almost impossible for his eyes to focus. And soon it was just a blur of gorgeous colours dancing before his eyes. He grew dizzy with the sheer beauty of the spectacle. So captivated he was that he didn't notice when the rains eased, and the big red parrot called out as he took flight, "Come, little bird, come see how we paint ourselves new colours each day." But the little Rainbird was still so much in awe of the spectacle, as the huge mats of birds all began rushing out from the tree. He still sat there mesmerised by all the flurry of activity. But after a few moments he came to his senses, and immediately launched into the mass of birds to try and follow them and see what happens. As he looked, he noticed the rain had not stopped but merely eased off a little, and the birds hurriedly flocked to all the brightly coloured flowers all about, and began drinking the nectar and splurging the rich colours of the flowers all over themselves. Now, he was only a small bird, and the sheer numbers and size of many birds swarming from the tree didn't allow him much room, and he was soon forced low. He landed on a lower branch and stood for a moment to watch. So this was how they do it, he thought. And he sprang into the air and began looking for some bright flowers to paint his own feathers. There were so many birds that he could not find any spare, and as fast as he raced to a flower, there was always another bird beating him to it. By the time he got to any flowers, most of the colours were gone, and he only got a few tiny specks of colour for himself. Faster and faster he raced, flitting from flower to flower like a hummingbird, desperately trying to make himself colourful like all the other birds. But try as he might, there were so many other birds all trying to get painted up before the heavy rains came that he just couldn't find any flowers with more than a few drops of painted nectar. There was a loud clap of thunder, followed by a bright snake of lightning, and the rain began to fall heavily once again. Immediately, as if a decree had been made, the many thousands of birds once more flocked back to the shelter of the big old tree. Outside, the little Rainbird still raced to try and paint himself. Fast as he could get a few specks of colours, the rain began to smear them all down his feathers, and he raced ever faster trying to beat the rains. He began calling desperately for the rain to ease and allow him to get some of the colours before they washed away. Faster and faster he darted about among the flowers, and louder he called to the rains to stop. Among the tree's high branches, the big red parrot shook his head and sighed to the big white cockatoo that liked to paint his hair yellow. "Poor little bird, he doesn't realise he can repaint his colours again each day if these rains aren't so heavy like this, and not have to work so hard." The little Rainbird, he raced faster and faster, and eventually he took it upon himself to fly up into the teeming rain. He was going to try and approach the rain spirits in the sky and beg for them to ease the rains. His little frame flashed across the sky, leaving trails of colours as it sped upwards. And all the birds sheltering in the trees peered up and laughed at the Rainbird's futile attempts. The big red parrot was one who didn't laugh. He was very impressed with the bravery of such a small bird to fly higher than even the hawk and the crow. But by now, the little Rainbird was soon so high that only the eagles flew higher. And then suddenly he was above the storm clouds, looking at bright sunshine. The sun immediately began to dry his feathers and he felt warm. He called out to the spirits of the sky. I beg you, these heavy rains are causing all the birds to argue about their colours, and they fight over them constantly and must keep painting themselves to stop the rains making them plain and not noticeable like me. Can you please let the rain stop for a while? If they didn't have to repaint themselves all the time, there would be colours for all to share, and they may stop fighting over them. There was no answer, but a break appeared in the clouds, and a dazzling ray of sunlight, and so the Rainbird wheeled and dove once more back towards the earth and the huge tree where all the other birds flocked together. As he dove from above, his tiny frame gathered speed and he streaked across the sky. The rains once more washed colours from him, and across the sky he painted a stream of bright colours. The clouds then began parting, and a shaft of bright sunlight burst through, illuminating the landscape. The dulls, blues, greys and greens of the dark rainy days became stunning bright greens, and an explosion of flower colours now burst anew. The warming sun once more dried the colours on him, and below the birds were all massing in the bright sunlight. They surged almost as one from the old tree the moment the first sun rays appeared, and they once more flew frantically about, fighting over the flowers and painting their feathers again. They rejoiced in the sunlight as it began to dry their feathers, but still they fought over the flowers and squabbling broke out again. Little Rainbird noticed the big red parrot perched near red banksia bush. He was busy splashing himself with colour, rubbing himself all over with the bright red flower. As he flew up to speak and landed nearby, the red parrot was startled and momentarily took flight before returning. "Oh, you scared me. I didn't see you sneak up." The Rainbird looked sad. "Still, you didn't notice me. I painted myself with all the colours I could find." "Well, you certainly did," said the red parrot. "You're indistinguishable against the beautiful colours that are all about. You're such a beautiful bird, little one. I was waiting to thank you for calling for the sun from the sky spirits. Look how beautiful the colours are everywhere." Indeed, it was an amazing splash of colour, and he flew down among the valley to see more for himself. Everywhere he flew, he called out to the other birds, asking them how they liked his bright new plumage. Many didn't hear his tiny voice among all the chattering and squawking of the others, and again he felt unnoticed. A few did hear him, but when they saw how many colours the little bird was, they grew very jealous and they called out, "Go away! You can't have any more of the colours we use. We need them for us in case the rain returns." And they chased him away, or they refused to befriend him, and soon he grew sad once again. Still all the birds argued over the colours and squabbled and complained. To little Rainbird, he could only see all the magnificent colours and how beautiful they were. Then suddenly the rains again returned, and the birds all streamed back to the shelter of the big tree. It rained heavier than it had ever rained before, and by the time the little Rainbird reached the tree canopy to shelter, it was again overcrowded with chattering, squawking birds. This time, however, they did notice him. But the little Rainbird hadn't noticed how his feathers still shone brilliantly with dazzling colours. Brightened by the sun's rays high aloft, he shone, and many birds started calling out, "How is it you still have such bright colours? We're almost pale now from this rain, and our colours are almost leached from our bodies. Yet you're still brightly coloured with all of our colours." Then some began wheeling about and diving close to him. "Give us back those colours that are ours. You don't need them. You're just a plain bird that stays out in the rain. You don't know the colours' song. How can you have such colours if you can't even sing them?" And they began bumping him, and each time they did, they were smeared with little of his colour. Soon he was bumped off the perch and forced to fly, but the others kept whirling about and diving into him, and he was forced to flee back out into the torrential rains. The little Rainbird decided to leave his valley. He felt bad he'd made more disharmonies. Farther and farther he flew. Heavy the rain remained. Heavy his spirit fell. Yet still he did not lose his colours. Though they dripped from him constantly and blurred into a myriad of colours, they did not fade or diminish, and he flew on, calling out in his sadness. Higher and higher he flew, until he was just a blur of colours streaking across the sky once more. Though the rain was still falling heavily, in parts the once total cloud cover began to break up and reveal glimpses of the blue sky that was hidden by the storm clouds. The little Rainbird decided he was the Rainbird, and so he would only ever come out when it rained, and the others would shelter him and would not see him. He began chasing the rain clouds now further and further, trying to keep up with them and only fly in the rain showers when no other birds were about. He had decided he was now cursed with his new colours, and he would look for somewhere where his colours didn't matter, and he would live there. So on and on he flew, searching all about for a new home. Sunlight again streamed down through the clouds, and the birds all streamed out from the big tree again to grab the flowers' colours and paint their feathers with all the gleaming, bright new colours. So many flowers, so many more birds, and so very many colours. They didn't see the little Rainbird. They looked up and saw only a beautifully brightly coloured streak flashing across the sky, moving away across the heavens. It bathed them all with magnificent colours, and they all sat in awe of its magnificent beauty. Below him, the Rainbird saw how happy all the other birds looked with him not there, as he assumed, and he decided he would leave forever. He flew very high and very far, searching for his new home, but nowhere could he find one he thought would be welcome. So he just kept flying, on and on and on, looking everywhere for a new home, always looking for a place that he could one day call his own. "Oh, that's a sad story, Nana," I'd said. "Is my dreaming a sad one?" Old Nana Millie laughed at me softly. "Ha, little G, you think it's a sad one, eh? No, you got to know all that dreaming to know it properly. It's no sad dreaming story. It is a happy one, little bird." "But why?" I said. "Little Rainbird's chased away and has no home, and he just keeps looking." "Little G, you're a funny little bird. That is not the end of that dreaming. What about your heart's song?" I looked at her and I said, "What is my heart's song?" "Ah, now I'll tell you that one, eh? You see, that little Rainbird, he flies everywhere looking for his home, and everywhere he goes he crawls out, and everyone looks. And they see those rainbows and they say, 'Look, that little Rainbird, when he crawls out the rains go away, and he brings the rainbows and the sun. See how all those birds all fight, even when they had all them colours? Now they have the rainbow, they are happy again. That's why it got no end, that rainbow.'" The little Rainbird is still looking, but he'll find a new home. His heart song, his Princess Charming, will call to him one day. She will sing to him in colours like a rainbow song, and he'll hear her and know his dreaming song is calling him. He'll hear his soulmate call, for he's a solitary bird, not normally seen in flocks. He's often only seen when it rains. And when he hears her call, he'll know. His heart will be smitten and he'll follow his path, the path of heart. And the rainbow will touch the earth once again and he'll know. He will finally be home. His heart song will call to him and he'll fly to her. And the rainbow bridge will complete its journey. The two hearts will be joined by a bridge of many colours, and he'll find his home, His heart song will sing him home, and he'll follow her sweet song, and he will sing too. They'll sing a chorus of many colours. They'll sing of many colours, many different colours. This is the little rainbird's fate, that he will find happiness, peace, love and harmony with his heart song, and his journey will add colours to others that lack it, washed away by the rain. He will bring songs of many colours, not just a few. When the land, our mother, is sick and ravaged, and all the animals, birds and fishes are dying, the rivers are poisoned and the trees almost gone, a new tribe of people shall come upon the earth, from many different colours, classes and creeds, and who by their actions and deeds shall make the earth green again and restore the law. They will be known as warriors of the rainbow. So that's not the end of the little Rainbird story, and his story is not a sad one but a very beautiful story. Even though the little Rainbird was chased away and seemed to have no home anymore, but just keeps looking and looking for somewhere to live, they say that the Rainbird flies everywhere looking for a new home, and everywhere he goes he calls out to the rains, and the rains go away, and with him the little Rainbird brings the rainbows and the sunshine. Now all the birds at one time would fight each other for the colours from the flowers are happy. For when the rain comes, the birds all listen for the Rainbird's call. And when they hear it, they know he will come and bring the sunshine and the beautiful rainbows. For everywhere the Rainbird flies, he sings out, and the rainbow of colours streaks from him across the sky. Now all the birds have colours, and peace, love, happiness and harmony lives in the land once again. That's the story of the Rainbird and how the birds got their colours. Our ancient prophecies say a time will come when the blue sky and waters will turn black and green things turn brown and die. Animals and fish will disappear and birds will drop from the sky. This devastation will come because of man's greed and disrespect for Mother Earth. Great leaders, warriors and shamans of many nations will be born to be pathfinders, and they will cleanse the earth for rebirth. Next will come the planters, sowing seeds of truth, justice and freedom. The storytellers, warriors and planters will live in the way of the Great Spirit and teach ways to keep Mother of the Ground sacred forevermore. They will be called Rainbow Warriors, for they will bring together the four races of man to live in peace. The four sacred directions and the four races of man are symbolised by the magnificence and glory of the rainbow. Prophecy of the Rainbow Warrior as told by Standing Bear, a Lakota elder.